There are moments in life when everything changes in a matter of seconds. Moments that begin as disasters but end as turning points. For Callan Ward, a 34-year-old single father, that moment came on a bright weekday afternoon, right outside the gleaming glass building where he worked as a junior administrative assistant. One minute he was rushing to pick up his daughter from school, and the next he found himself grabbing the arm of his intoxicated boss, stopping her from stumbling into a group of men who clearly did not intend to help her. It wasn't heroic planning. It wasn't courage. It was instinct, mixed with the worn-out kindness of a man who had spent too many years putting others first, even when no one ever noticed. If you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Spark. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The day had started as most of Callan's days did, with exhaustion. The sun was already high and bright when he raced through the cluttered apartment he shared with his 11-year-old daughter, Neera. Morning light filled the living room, making it appear warmer than it actually was. Bills sat like silent judgment on the center table, but Callan ignored them for the moment. He woke Neera gently, helped her get ready, made her a simple breakfast, and walked her to school before rushing to catch the bus to downtown. His life was a careful balancing act built on survival, love, and a constant fear of failing the only family he had left. At work, Callan's days were long and quietly difficult. His salary barely covered rent, let alone the school supplies, doctor appointments, or extra tutoring Neera occasionally needed. Yet he worked without complaint, because complaining never paid a bill. His boss, the company's operations director, Trisana Vance, was known for being sharp, intimidating, and impeccably collected. People described her using words like laser-focused and unshakable. To Callan, she was simply unreachable, another executive who lived in another world. A world with money, power, and influence. A world he had learned to admire from afar but never imagined stepping into. But everyone carries weight unseen by others. Trisana had been looking increasingly tired over the last month. Small signs the staff whispered about, missed lunches, tense meetings, and one moment when she stared too long at a blank wall as if trying to remember something important. Callan, though observant, kept his thoughts to himself. Office politics were dangerous for someone like him. On that bright afternoon he was supposed to leave early to pick Neera up because her school ended early for a teacher's development day. He rushed down the building steps only to freeze when he saw his boss leaning heavily against a taxi stand pole, her hair out of place, her eyes dazed. She was clearly intoxicated, something completely unlike the polished, strict leader he knew. At first he hesitated. It wasn't his business. He had somewhere to be. But then he noticed a group of men not far away watching her, exchanging glances, smirks forming. His heart thudded. He didn't have time to think. He only knew one thing: trouble was seconds away. He walked straight toward her, calling her name softly to avoid drawing attention. When she didn't respond, he stepped between her and the men, gently supporting her before she collapsed. One of the men yelled something mocking, but Callan ignored it, shielding her as he guided her toward the edge of the curb. He signaled a cab, praying one would stop. The sun was scorching, reflecting off the pavement. Sweat ran down his temples, but he kept his voice steady as he reassured her. She mumbled incoherently, a few pieces about a fight with her mother, something about loneliness, something about everything being too much. There, in that blazing daylight, he saw something he had never expected: vulnerability. Her driver wasn't answering, and Callan knew he couldn't leave her there. So he made a decision. One that would cost him more time, more energy, and possibly even his job because he was already late picking up Neera. But doing nothing would haunt him forever. He escorted Trisana carefully into a taxi, gave the driver her address from her employee record, which he memorized from scheduling documents, and rode along to make sure she got home safely. Inside her sleek but cold apartment, he helped her sit on the couch, left a glass of water nearby, scribbled a note that she had made it home safely, and stepped out quietly. He sprinted afterward, down elevators, through sidewalks, across streets, to reach Neera's school. By the time he arrived, his shirt clung to his body with sweat. Neera stood alone on the bench outside the school gates, kicking her feet as she waited patiently. She didn't scold him. She never did. She simply greeted him with that bright smile that softened life's harsh edges. He hugged her tightly, breathless, grateful, He didn't tell her what happened. He didn't tell anyone. He just hoped, prayed that the next day would pass normally, that no one had seen him escorting his boss home, and that she would either not remember or pretend not to. He wasn't ready for attention. He didn't know how to handle it. But the next morning something unusual happened. When Callan walked into the office, people looked at him differently. Not hostile, not mocking, just curious, whispering. A receptionist gave him a half-smile he couldn't decipher. He felt his stomach knotting. He reached his desk, lowered his head, and began organizing paperwork as if nothing had happened. Then, 5 minutes later, the entire office fell silent. He didn't even have to look up to feel the weight of her presence. Tristana Vance rarely stepped out of her glass office, but today she was walking across the room toward him. Her heels clicked loudly in the quiet workspace. Sunlight from the big windows illuminated her, but something else shone in her eyes today. Something different from her usual strictness. Callan stood awkwardly as she stopped before him, her tall frame casting a shadow over his desk. She didn't pretend she didn't remember. She didn't brush him aside, and she didn't let him shrink into invisibility, which was his daily habit. Instead, she placed both hands firmly on his desk and said, in a steady voice that everyone heard, "Callan, thank you for saving me yesterday."